Fusion is simply merging your still photography along with some short video clips in order to create a powerful storytelling piece for your clients. It's fast, it's easy, and it can make you a lot of money. As a photographer, I learned that there were certain skills I had that helped me shoot video. Things like knowing my composition, the rule of thirds, manual exposure or auto exposure, just really learning how to use natural light around me. So to help us with some tips and tricks on how to shoot with your DSLR camera is my husband Rob. The first thing I'd like to know is how do I set up my video?
Well, shooting video with these cameras is quite simple. As a matter of
editing is not that difficult. You don't have to use things like Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, these huge heavy editing programs that movie producers use. We don't need those. You can edit with little things that you already have on your computer if you have a Mac like iMovie, or maybe something that's online based like Animoto. There's also, what is the name of that one? ProShow Producer?
ProShow Producer is another slideshow program. Pretty much any program that produces slideshows or builds slideshows like that.
And I believe all of those, with the exception of iMovie, are all Mac and PC based, so you don't even have to change your hardware there.
So when we're shooting video, here are some tips on how to stay steady. It's really vital, guys, that whether you're a handheld shooter or you use one of these stabilizers, that you recognize what's called points of contact. Points of contact are how many points of contact can I make with my body, the camera, and the environment to ensure that I'm shooting really steady video. So here's a perfect example. If you're going to be shooting video, don't do this. Don't do this. Holding the camera out here is deadly. It's just going to translate to really unstable video, really shaky, and it doesn't even matter how much the camera weighs or how steady you think you are. When you blow that sucker up on a big screen, you're going to see the motion in there. Now, that's not to say that you can't shoot handheld. There's a couple things you can do to ensure better quality video if you're going to shoot handheld. Number one, use a wide angle lens. Let's not try to use a 70 to 200 zoomed all the way in at 200 when we're hand holding video. The longer your focal length, the more shake you're going to have in your video. So keep it wide. Put on a wider angle lens. A good rule of thumb is don't shoot with anything wider than anything longer than a 50 millimeter lens. I really try
85?
to keep it.
I do like my 85.
85s are great and you can do it, but here's a tip. If you're going to use a lens like an 85 that has a little bit longer of a focal length, use something to brace yourself on. And you know, in this case, I'm just kind of putting my elbows on this surface here, and I'm just going to hold the camera as close to my body as possible. And that's pretty universal when shooting video, even on a monopod. You want to make sure that the camera is as close to your body as possible. This way we're not holding it out here. So points of contact, this is one point of contact. This is another point of contact. Down here on the bottom of my monopod, I've got these little feet. I'm standing on them. That's another point of contact. And then the monopod is pressed against my body. So I've got about 4 or 5 points of contact here, and I know that image is going to be nice and sturdy when I go to hit record. So
Fusion Effects is a program that allows my video clips to come into Photoshop. I can trim the start and end points of them. I can color correct, fix my contrast, my warmer, cooler exposure, and really make sure that my video clips look professional and polished just like my photographs do. So to do this, I'm going to go into File, Scripts, Fusion Effects. I'm going to select my files here in that folder that I've already created for my favorite video clips. And let's see, I'll just select the first 6 for now. Click Open. And there are 2 things that I can do. It says Resolution Output. That's 720 and 1080 for the options. Don't worry too much about this right now. Just know that for the Fusion slideshow, I'm going to use it online. And online, I want to have 720 as my output resolution. So I'm going to click OK. And it's going to bring up my first video clip. The first thing I want to do to any video clip is trim it. Because remember, we took about 8, 10, 12 seconds of video clip, but all of that video clip probably isn't usable. Mostly because when you press the record button on your camera, you're going to shake a little bit there. And then when you press it off, you're going to shake a little bit there. So you want to cut off those parts so you can trim your video and just have your best 6, 7 seconds to work with. So to do that, I'm going to come here to my Edit Video function. it's going to pop up two things. You'll notice on the bottom it popped up this animation timeline. Yes.
And
Again,
it's great to use for seniors if you've got like a nice tight shot of a senior and he's tossing a soccer ball in the air, you know, and just have him kind of walk into the shot like that from out of focus. That's a really good way to use
Nice.
pre-focusing. So there's another trick I want to show you. It's called rack focusing, and this is pretty widely used. This is used in the cinema world to tell a story using foreground and background. So what rack focusing really is just shifting the focus from the foreground to the background, or vice versa. So I want to show you exactly how we do that.
is that what these are for?
That's what our little friends here are for. That's what this is.
This is some dude playing the drums here.
Yeah, we got some kind of you know, dude here, like I don't know what you would call that, but it's pretty cool. You got a little fishy. So we're just gonna put one in the foreground and then one in the background. And all I'm gonna do here is simply drop down low so I can get on the same plane as them. I'm just adjusting my monopod, by the way. And again, points of contact, steady image. I'm leaning into my camera, nice and steady, holding my focus here on the foreground object. And I've got a 50mm lens on, and my settings, I'm at 30th of a second at 2.2. So my depth of field is really shallow, my aperture, but you know, you don't really have to be that deep in order to achieve this focus. But simply all I'm going to do is shift from my foreground to my background, and I'm going to shift from my background on the fishy to the foreground drummer dude, and I'll do it one more time. Back to the fishy, and then to the foreground guy. And you can do that with couples. You can do that with if you have a wall and kind of like your seniors leaning up against the wall, and you kind of focus on the wall up by your camera lens first and then pull focus to the subject. Really cool, really simple. With a little bit of practice, it's not going to be easy at first. Learning to rack focus does take some practice, and I've been doing it a long time. So I've kind of got a feel for it, but don't be afraid to try it and experiment. Just like anything, video is an art. You have to learn the trade. You have to learn the tips and tricks, just like when you started out as a photographer.